Imagine a mind so unshakable that no insult, no failure, no setback can break it. A mind that stands firm like a mountain in the face of life's storms. This is not fantasy, it is a skill, a discipline, a way of life. In Buddhism, true strength is not about suppressing emotions, but mastering them, transforming chaos into clarity and turning pain into power. What if you could train your mind like a warrior, sharpen it like a blade, and build an emotional fortress that no one can penetrate? Today, you're going to discover 10 life-changing Buddhist principles that will make you emotionally unbreakable. These are not just habits, they are weapons against fear, stress, and weakness. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by life's challenges, if you want to develop a mindset so strong that nothing can shake you, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will have the tools to master your emotions and take full control of your inner world. Let's begin. 1. Cultivate the sacred pause, a warrior's response to chaos. In Buddhism, mastering the ability to pause before reacting is one of the highest forms of self-control. This sacred pause is the space between feeling an emotion and taking action, an essential gap where wisdom has the chance to step in before impulse takes over. Imagine a warrior in battle. If they react impulsively to every attack, they expose themselves to danger. But if they remain still, assess the situation, and strike with precision, they remain in control. The same applies to your emotions. When anger flares up, when fear creeps in, or when frustration rises, instead of immediately acting on these emotions, take a breath, step back, and observe. Ask yourself, is my reaction going to make this situation better or worse? Am I acting from wisdom or from temporary emotions? Buddhism teaches that emotions are like waves, intense at first, but they always pass. If you react immediately, you are controlled by the wave. But if you pause, breathe, and allow the wave to settle, you remain in control. The more you practice this, the more unshakable you become. This is the way of the true warrior, not fighting chaos with more chaos, but meeting it with stillness, clarity, and strength. Every attack has a challenge to your mental fortress. Buddhism teaches that true strength is not found in resisting conflict, but in transforming it into a tool for growth. Every time someone criticizes you, disrespects you, or tries to bring you down, you have two choices: take it personally and let it weaken you, or see it as an opportunity to strengthen your mind. The Buddha himself faced endless criticism, yet he remained unshaken. Why? Because he understood that insults only have power if you accept them. Think of your mind as a fortress. If the walls are weak, even the slightest attack will break them. But if the walls are strong, no matter how hard someone tries to destroy them, they will stand firm. Every negative comment, every betrayal, and every challenge in your life is a test of your mental strength. Instead of reacting with anger or self-doubt, train yourself to say, "This is not an attack, this is an opportunity to become stronger." Buddhism teaches detachment from ego. The more you let go of the need for approval or validation, the more immune you become to negativity. Imagine someone throwing insults at you, but instead of feeling hurt, you simply observe their words like passing wind. It comes and goes, leaving you untouched. This is the ultimate strength, to be so grounded in your inner peace that no external force can shake you. Train yourself to embrace discomfort, like a Navy SEAL. In Buddhism, the path to true strength is not found in avoiding discomfort, but in embracing it as a tool for growth. Just as a warrior or a Navy SEAL trains their body and mind to endure extreme conditions, Buddhism teaches that the key to emotional resilience is learning to sit with discomfort rather than running from it. Life is full of challenges, rejection, failure, loneliness, and uncertainty. Most people try to escape these feelings through distractions, whether it's seeking comfort in food, entertainment, or temporary pleasures. But the Buddha taught that real freedom comes from facing suffering directly and seeing it for what it is, impermanent and powerless unless you allow it to control you. Instead of fearing discomfort, make it your training ground. When frustration arises, don't react. Observe it. When you feel restless, sit with it. When fear creeps in, acknowledge it without letting it consume you. The more you expose yourself to discomfort without resistance, the stronger you become. This is why Buddhist monks practice long hours of meditation in silence and simplicity. It's not about suffering, but about strengthening the mind to remain calm under any condition. Just like a Navy SEAL who endures grueling training to become unbreakable, you can train your mind the same way. Start small. Practice patience when waiting in line. Remain still in uncomfortable moments and resist the urge to escape emotions with distractions. Over time, discomfort loses its power over you, and you gain something far greater, inner mastery. 4. Use the perspective flip to turn problems into power. Buddhism teaches that suffering does not come from the events in our lives, but from the way we interpret them. What one person sees as a disaster, another sees as an opportunity. This is the power of the perspective flip, the ability to reframe any challenge in a way that strengthens rather than weakens you. Imagine two people facing the same setback. Both lose their jobs. One sees it as a catastrophe, falling into despair and self-pity. The other sees it as a fresh start, an opportunity to explore something new. The event itself is the same, but the difference lies in the way it is perceived. Buddhism teaches that the mind creates reality. And by shifting your perspective, you can transform obstacles into stepping stones. Whenever you encounter difficulty, pause and ask yourself, how can this situation serve me? What can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Say, this is happening for me. Every challenge contains a hidden lesson, a chance to develop patience, wisdom, or resilience. The Buddha faced hardships, rejection, and even betrayal. Yet he did not resist them. He used them as fuel for his enlightenment. If you train yourself to see problems not as burdens, but as training for your inner strength, nothing in life can truly defeat you. The moment you master the perspective flip, you turn every difficulty into power. 5. Master the emotional transmutation technique. In Buddhism, emotions are seen as energy, neither good nor bad, but simply forces that arise and pass. The key to emotional strength is not in suppressing emotions, but in transforming them into something useful. This is the essence of emotional transmutation. The ability to take negative energy, like anger or fear, and channel it into wisdom, discipline, or creativity. Think of a fire. It can burn and destroy, or it can provide warmth and power. Your emotions work the same way. Instead of letting anger make you reckless, use it as fuel to push yourself forward. Instead of allowing fear to paralyze you, use it to sharpen your awareness and prepare for challenges. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we attach to emotions, identifying with them as if they define us. Instead of saying, I am angry, recognize that anger is present, but you are separate from it. Once you detach from the emotion, you gain control over it. Now you can redirect that energy into something productive. A monk who feels frustration during meditation does not give up. He deepens his practice. A warrior who feels fear before battle does not retreat. He uses it to heighten his focus. You can do the same. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask yourself, how can I use this energy for my growth? Master this technique, and no emotion will ever control you again. 6. Adopt the Stoic observer mindset. Become untouchable. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises not from external events, but from how we react to them. The Stoic observer mindset is about stepping back and watching your emotions without becoming consumed by them. Instead of being a victim of your feelings, you become an observer, detached and in control. Imagine sitting by a river, watching leaves float by. Each leaf represents a thought or emotion: anger, fear, sadness. Instead of grabbing onto them, you simply watch them drift away. This is the Buddhist way to acknowledge emotions without letting them define you. When something upsetting happens, instead of reacting immediately, take a breath and observe your inner response. The Buddha remained calm even when insulted because he understood a fundamental truth. No one can disturb your peace unless you allow them to. A person's words, actions, or opinions only have power over you if you attach importance to them. The Stoic observer does not chase happiness or resist discomfort. He remains steady, watching everything pass like clouds in the sky. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, practice this mindset. Say to yourself, "I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am the observer." With time, you will develop a state of mind that is untouchable, one that remains unshaken no matter what happens. 7. Build a mental fortress through emotional fasting. In Buddhism, one of the greatest sources of suffering is attachment. Attachment to comfort, attachment to pleasure, and attachment to emotional indulgence. The more we rely on external validation, entertainment, or distractions to feel good, the weaker our minds become. Emotional fasting is the practice of voluntarily depriving yourself of unnecessary emotional indulgences so that your mind becomes strong, resilient, and independent. Just as physical fasting strengthens the body by teaching it to function without constant consumption, emotional fasting strengthens the mind by teaching it to remain stable without needing constant pleasure or reassurance. Most people go through life dependent on external sources for emotional stability. They need validation from others to feel confident. They seek comfort in entertainment to avoid discomfort. They indulge in instant gratification, whether through social media, food, or distractions, to escape boredom or frustration. Over time, this weakens their ability to handle adversity because they have never trained their minds to function without emotional crutches. Buddhism teaches that the path to true inner peace is learning to be content without clinging to external sources of happiness. This is where emotional fasting comes in. It is a practice of gradually reducing your dependence on external emotions and learning to find stability from within. Start by identifying what you emotionally consume the most. Do you constantly check your phone for validation? Do you rely on comfort food or entertainment to escape stress? Do you react impulsively to emotions instead of sitting with them? Begin fasting from these emotional dependencies. Spend time in silence without distractions. Resist the urge to immediately comfort yourself when discomfort arises. Instead of reacting to boredom, frustration, or loneliness, sit with those emotions and observe them without judgment. Buddhist monks practice this principle daily. They do not seek constant pleasure or comfort because they understand that true strength comes from detachment. They eat simple meals, live without unnecessary luxuries, and spend hours in meditation, training their minds to be free from attachment. They do not need external sources to feel complete because their peace comes from within. You can apply the same principles to your life. By reducing your need for instant gratification, you build the ability to endure discomfort without breaking. You develop patience, self-control, and mental resilience. Over time, emotional fasting transforms your mind into a fortress. You become less reactive, less dependent on external validation, and more in control of your emotions. Life's ups and downs no longer throw you off balance because you have trained yourself to remain steady regardless of what happens around you. You are no longer a slave to emotions. You master them. This is the essence of true inner strength, the path of the unshakable mind. 8. Develop the no-reaction mastery. Control what they can't. In Buddhism, one of the highest forms of self-mastery is the ability to remain unmoved by external forces. The world constantly tests you. People will try to provoke you. Situations will challenge your patience, and emotions will surge within you. But true strength lies in mastering the art of no reaction, the ability to stay calm, composed, and in control, no matter what happens. The moment you stop reacting to negativity, you take away its power. Most people are ruled by their emotions. When someone insults them, they react with anger. When faced with frustration, they complain. When things don't go their way, they lash out. But reacting impulsively gives control to the external world. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we attach to these reactions, when we let them dictate our inner peace. To break free, you must train yourself to master non-reaction. Imagine someone trying to start a fire with wet wood. It doesn't catch. In the same way, when people try to provoke you and you do not react, their negativity loses its fuel. This is why Buddhist monks practice silence and mindfulness. They observe their emotions without becoming slaves to them. They understand that reacting impulsively only leads to more suffering. Instead of engaging with negativity, they remain still, letting it pass like a storm that comes and goes. Practicing no-reaction mastery does not mean suppressing emotions or avoiding confrontation. It means choosing your response with wisdom. When someone insults you, instead of immediately defending yourself, pause and ask, "Does this truly affect me, or is my ego reacting?" When frustration arises, instead of acting on impulse, breathe and observe it like a passing cloud. The more you train yourself to remain calm in difficult moments, the more power you gain over your own mind. Buddhism teaches that your true power lies in your ability to control what others cannot. People can try to provoke you, but they cannot force you to react. They can insult you, but they cannot dictate your emotions. Once you master this mindset, you become untouchable. No matter what happens, you remain steady, unshaken, and completely in control. This is the power of no-reaction mastery, a mind so strong that nothing external can break it. 9. Use dark visualization to become unstoppable. In Buddhism, one of the most profound teachings is the acceptance of suffering, loss, and impermanence. Most people avoid thinking about worst-case scenarios because they fear them. But what if, instead of avoiding your fears, you confronted them head-on? What if you trained your mind to face darkness so that when adversity comes, you are already stronger than it? This is the power of dark visualization, a technique that allows you to prepare for life's hardships in advance, making you emotionally unbreakable. Many people live in denial, assuming that good times will last forever. They avoid thinking about loss, failure, and struggle. But when hardship inevitably strikes, they are unprepared, shocked, and overwhelmed. In contrast, Buddhist monks and Stoic philosophers regularly reflect on suffering, not to create fear, but to take away fear's power. They meditate on impermanence, picturing situations like losing everything, facing rejection, or even meeting death itself. By imagining these events, they train their minds to accept them so that if they ever happen in real life, they can stay strong and calm. The Buddha taught that suffering is a natural part of life, and the more we resist it, the more control it has over us. By practicing dark visualization, you change your perspective. Instead of fearing hardship, you accept it as an unavoidable part of living. You picture setbacks not to stay in negativity, but to prepare your mind. If you think about failure in advance, you won't freeze when it happens. If you imagine loss, you will value what you have even more. If you reflect on your mortality, you will stop wasting time on what doesn't matter and focus on what truly does. This practice also builds emotional strength. When you prepare for betrayal, criticism, or rejection, you take away their power to unsettle you. If you expect people to let you down at some point, you won't take it personally when it happens. If you picture yourself handling challenges with strength and grace, your mind will naturally react that way when real obstacles appear. In Buddhism, this is called training the mind, creating a mental blueprint for how you will face life's storms before they arrive. Great warriors, Buddhist monks, and leaders throughout history have used this method to stay steady in the face of hardship. While others panic in crisis, those who have trained their minds through dark visualization stay calm, composed, and in control. This practice doesn't make life easier, but it makes you stronger. You build a mindset that nothing can break because you have already faced your fears in your mind. Start by setting aside a little time each day to imagine difficulties. Picture losing something precious, being rejected, or dealing with a tough situation. But don't just see the challenge. See yourself handling it with wisdom and strength. Feel the emotions, notice them, and let them pass. The more you do this, the more mentally ready you become. When real problems come, you will no longer be caught off guard, overwhelmed, or weak. You will face them with the mindset of someone who has already overcome them before they even happened. That is what makes you unstoppable. You don't just hope for good times, you prepare for the difficult ones. And because of that, no loss, no failure, and no hardship will ever break you. In Buddhism, true strength doesn't come from temporary bursts of motivation, but from having a deep, steady foundation, a personal code that shapes who you are, how you think, and how you respond to life. Without a guiding philosophy, people drift through life, reacting to whatever happens, changing with their emotions, and being swayed by outside influences. But those who create a personal life code, a set of principles they live by, become unshakable. They are not ruled by impulses or opinions. They are led by a strong sense of purpose, discipline, and clarity. A life code is more than just a list of values. It is an inner contract with yourself. It's a set of firm principles that guide your actions, no matter how you feel in the moment. In Buddhism, this is seen in the Eightfold Path, a moral and mental guide that leads a person toward enlightenment. It doesn't depend on outside conditions, but on a commitment to self-mastery and inner peace. When you have a clear personal philosophy, challenges don't shake you because you already know how you will face them. To create your own life code, begin by defining your core values. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? What principles will I never give up? What mindset will I carry into every situation? Write down the rules you will live by, no matter what. Your code should reflect the person you are becoming, the version of you that is disciplined, resilient, and mentally strong. Some examples of life code statements could be, I will not let emotions control my actions. I will train my mind every day through meditation and self-discipline. I will stay calm in all situations, no matter how tough. I will let go of what I cannot control and focus only on my own actions. I will never complain about hardship. I will always look for solutions. I will practice gratitude and value every moment, no matter the situation. I will act with wisdom, not impulse. I will never betray my values, even when no one is watching. Once you define your personal life code, the next step is to live by it daily. This takes discipline, but with time, it becomes part of who you are. You don't just try to stay calm, you are a calm person. You don't just aim to be resilient, you are resilient. Your life code stops being something you think about and becomes something you naturally live. Buddhist monks follow strict moral and mental principles, which is why they remain peaceful in all situations. They don't react to negativity because they have already chosen wisdom over impulse. They don't chase validation because they know their worth comes from within. They do not waste energy on what they cannot control because their path is already clear. This is the strength of having a personal life code. It removes doubt, confusion, and emotional instability. You no longer ask, "How should I respond to this situation?" You already know the answer because your life code decides it for you. Building an unshakable identity through your life code also shields you from the distractions and temptations of the modern world. Many people feel lost because they follow whatever feels good in the moment. They change their minds under social pressure. They give in to instant gratification because they have no guiding principles. But with a strong foundation, you don't fall into these traps. You stay steady, focused, and in control. One of the greatest strengths of having a personal life code is that it makes decision-making simple. When you face hard choices, you don't hesitate. Your values have already chosen for you. If your code says, "I do not break my commitments," then when temptation appears, there is no inner struggle. You simply follow your principle. If your code says, "I remain calm in all situations," then when stress comes, you refuse to let it control you. Your life code becomes a kind of mental armor. When challenges appear, you don't break, you follow your principles. When others try to unsettle you, they fail because you are anchored in something deeper than passing emotions. Your identity is no longer shaped by outside events, but by the inner foundation you have built. Becoming emotionally unbreakable isn't about shutting down your feelings. It's about mastering them. It's about developing an inner strength so deep that no outside force can shake you. Buddhism teaches that true strength is not aggression, but steady, unshakable peace. When you live these habits daily, you shape a mind that stays calm in storms, steady in times of change, and free from the weight of suffering. The path to emotional strength is a lifelong journey, but with each step, you grow wiser, stronger, and more at peace with yourself and the world.